The major issues of CPTSD are all here in this one small picture. This overbearing, bloated balloon head is the bad parent. For the psychotherapists, this is the superego. For the transactional analysts, transactional analysts, this is the parent, the bad parent. That's what I'm calling it in this model. This is the ego, or the adult in transactional analysis, and this is the child, or the id. Okay, bad parent, in my model, I'm swapping between Freudian psychoanalytic language and transactional analytic language because it's functional. Why? This is the ego. We all know, your client knows without any training, that the ego is the sense of self. It's the sense of who they are. It's the thing that moderates the different parts of the self, and it's the thing that moderates the relationship between the inner self and the outer self in a boundaried way in a normal person. In this diagram of parent, adult, child, superego, ego, and id, the superego, the bad parent, and the child are huge compared to the tiny, uncertain looking little ego, or adult, what should be an adult. I'm not going to refer to this in the transactional term of adult, because this is not an adult. When your client with CPTSD shows up, the problem that we have as a CPTSD sufferer, who I suspect for about 2 years of my life, I probably would have clicked for a full-blown personality disorder. I probably would have clicked for borderline personality disorder because I read up about it, and 80% of the symptoms for stereotypical male borderlines, male histrionic borderlines, I had all of them. So when we show up to you as a client, we are not the adult. We are this berated, shrunk, weak little ego. I'm not saying to those of you who are clients who are watching, don't get triggered by the word weak. This is not your fault. This is not my fault. It came from the trauma of the bad parent to the child in childhood. All of this is childhood trauma. The only time it is not is when you are dealing with a POW, a combat veteran who's come back, in which case this would be the torturer or prison guard who's inflicted so much trauma that the ego has shrunk. The soldier under the circuit, or political prisoner it could be, some people who watch my stuff work for Amnesty International, has shrunk, degraded, gone back into itself, and now has become a child. Because this is what happens when you're terrified. Because this is what happens when you experience a massive amount of pain and are living in fear for your very life 24/7. You regress back into an extremely vulnerable childlike state. Bad parent, shrunken ego, very confused inner child. So I drew the bad parent with an angry face. Some bad parents don't show an angry face. There is such a thing as covert narcissistic personality disorder or vulnerable narcissistic personality disorder. There may have been no shouting. There may have been no hitting. There may have been no open berating. It may have been ambient abuse, emotional abuse, gaslighting, things that slip in under the radar. The end result is a very shrunken ego. Most people who have CPTSD probably actually won't find that a demeaning description of where they're up to, because they just think, yeah, that is where my life is up to. This poor little person is not functioning as an adult. My major problem that I identified for myself when I was trying to recover for myself was, I am aware that I'm kind of silly and emotionally immature. At the time I was 35, 36, and I was trying to take an objective look at myself and just being like, what the hell is wrong with me? I'm very emotionally immature, I'm very indecisive, I'm very non-assertive, and when I'm trying to get things done or get what I want, I either freeze into laziness. I didn't know the word freeze into laziness, but I identified that I was very lazy and procrastinated. I explode into rage, I fawn and manipulate to get what I want, or I just run away from my problems. I didn't know about CPTSD when I was 35, so I've given you a more coherent version of what I was thinking inside my head. I have a better model now. And that's all I'm going to present to you in this course, by the way, is models of reality and models of healing. But I believe that they are so powerful that they will help you to help others and help you to help yourself. Bad parent, shrunken ego, very confused inner child. Let's talk about this for a second. The ego looks confused and shrunken. The parent is bloated and enraged looking, and it's driving trauma and upset down towards the child. The child has been drawn in a not very good way, because I'm not an artist, with a split face to represent the splitting. Those of us who've dipped into borderline personality disorder or who have very, very strong CPTSD will recognize in ourselves, if not full-blown dissociative identity disorder, the fact that we can show up as very different people. We turn up as different people on different days. And the person we are turning up as can switch in an instant. And that's a problem. It's very, very hard to maintain loving, boundaried, mutually advantageous business relationships, friendship relationships, sexual and intimate relationships when you're switching who you're showing up as on the drop of a dime. Very, very hard. Very, very hard for the people around you and very, very hard for you. Why are we splitting? Why is the face sometimes angry and why is the face sometimes sad? And is that all it is? No, but it's just easier to represent that way. It's called projective identification. The bad parent is feeling good some days, bad some days, bullying some days, or whatever some days. So they are the ones who are split. The kind of attention that they show the child is split. Come here, I love you. Get the fuck away from me, you little shit. Don't fucking look at, don't talk, stop crying. Wow, you know, that's, I love you, come here, come here, come here. Every day when a child is very, very vulnerable. Up and down. Love and hate. To keep this simple, let's say that the bad parent sometimes shows love and sometimes shows hate. We all know, most of us know as we're watching this might not be one bad parent, it might be two. You might have a loving parent and an angry parent. You might actually have sad mummy, angry daddy. And the child is looking to the bad parent to say, who am I? Who am I? How do I survive in this world? What's love? Show me how to love myself. Well, what's the message of how to love themselves? Come here, I love you. Fuck you, get away from me, you little shit. You're beautiful, you're the best thing in the world. Come here, I'm gonna punch you because I feel bad. It's hard stuff. Now imagine, now you're feeling that sorriness that you feel now and the horror you feel at my description for what is happening to this lollipop child that I drew on a board. It isn't real. It's made of pen, it's fine. Everything's fine, everything's fine. That's what happened to you. Can you feel that same compassion for what happened to you as the person who received this type of abuse? That's something I ask clients in therapy all the time. Sometimes they can for a moment, sometimes they can't. Why not? If the parent or parents didn't show compassion to the child in childhood, they can't access the capacity to show themselves compassion. There is a kind of a new type of therapy, and it just focuses on undoing the damage that is done from a child looking to a parent in their very early developmental years and going, show me who I am, and the parent giving them bad responses or no responses. There is another option here where I would just draw the parent with the eyes just turned away. They do nothing. They don't scream at the child. They don't give the child mixed messages. They don't torture the child. Nothing. They just ignore the child. It's still a message. It's still a communication to the child. You are not worthy of my attention. Well, whatever happens, total ignorance, abuse, smothering, the child is receiving a message, there must be something wrong with you. Because the child has no boundaries between its sense of self and the bad parent, and it just inhabits this idea, I'm being treated badly, there must be something wrong with me. A tiny child can't go, oh, my mum's a bit of a dick, or my dad is an alcoholic dependent. They've got childhood issues. That comes later. You know, this 30-year-old or 40-year-old or 50-year-old person who shows up in therapy can say that. And some of your clients are going to be very, very CPTSD literate. And they'll know all the words, and they'll know all the jargon, and they'll know all the mechanics of exactly what I'm talking about, but they're still showing up as this.